I'm outside the Clarity Theater here in Los Angeles, where Stig Asmussen just showed us God of War 3 for the first time in action. Have a lot of questions here that have been sent in by the readers of the PlayStation blog, and they'd like to know, how accessible is this going to be for newcomers? This game is likely to bring in people maybe the first time to Sony.
Right. Well, you know, the thing is that that's something that we've always taken pride with with the God of War games, is making it accessible and not like really leaving anybody out. You know, casual gamers can have a lot of fun with this game, and the hardcore guys can too, because it's really deep. So, you know, expect us to follow that same kind of philosophy.
Now, when demonstrating the game today, was there anything that you were particularly keen for people to take notice of?
Everything. I think that we showed a lot of stuff today, a lot of different gameplay, like pretty much around every corner we were showing something new. And not new for the sake of being new, but new to like evolve the series. So, you know, the gameplay feels really rooted in God of War, and that's kind of, you know, moving forward, we're going to continue to follow that direction.
This has been talked about as wrapping up the Kratos story. Is there any maybe conscious effort to leave some doors open or anything to maybe allow God of War to continue down the line, or is that even not in the picture?
Well, you know, I'm and the team, we're focused on God of War 3 right now. So you know, this is we're completing this story, and that's where we're at. It's speculating on what's, you know, future. You know, this is a very probably lucrative franchise for Sony, and I imagine that people are gonna, you know, want to push it forward. But as far as we're concerned, it's God of War 3.
Now, you've been around since the original God of War days. Are there any other, in that time, in the several years that have taken place since the first one hit on PS2, any games that have sort of influenced what we'll be seeing here in God of War 3?
Well, obviously God of War 1 and God of War 2. You know, recently there's been some cool stuff in games, like I really like Gears of War 2. You know, our gameplay is a lot different, but just kind of the spectacle of some of the things that you see in that game. The war is awesome, the way they present the war and everything, and that's something that's obviously important to us. And then just like, you know, going back to classic games that have always influenced us as a team, you know, games like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, Ico, Shadow of the Colossus is a great game. Castlevania, those types of games, Rygar.
Interesting they mentioned Shadow of the Colossus, as we have Titans in the game, and also there seems to be very similar to in Shadow of the Colossus, where you're climbing up a large beast. We saw Kratos climbing up large beasts. How's that mechanic going to work, and was this something that was even possible before?
So it's actually it's quite a bit different than the way it's used in Shadow of the Colossus, just because our Titans are so much bigger. We don't have like a different navigation set when we're on these guys. Kratos acts in the world just like he would on a flat ground plane and a static level. So, you know, you can do long Icarus jumps on top of these Titans. So it's different. I thought Shadow of the Colossus, you know, those sequences were fantastic, and it's definitely draws inspiration for us. But this is a different, that was one type of animal, and this is a whole different type of beast, because it's essentially a moving level.
Interesting that you mentioned the Colossus wings. That was one of many of the really cool powers that Kratos picked up in God of War 2. Is he going to further evolve in God of War 3, or are you going to take an approach similar to Prince of Persia, where the prince was able to do everything that he could do pretty much from the get-go?
Well, that's something that's we're still working out right now. Is like how is he going to start the game, and it's a tough decision. It would be really cool to start him off with a lot of the, you know, all the powers that he had at the end of God of War 2. But to your point earlier, how do you make this game accessible? And if we start him off with everything like that, we're running a risk that, like, you know, people might be lost, and it might be too challenging to kind of present them with that many moves. So there's good points on one end, there's bad points on the other end, and we're just trying to work out what's going to be the best for, you know, putting this game out there and everybody, you know, at the end of the day, making sure it's fun.
To someone like myself and the media who watched the demo today, it's pretty apparent what you're doing with the power of the PlayStation 3. But if you can talk on a high level to people who obviously weren't here today, what does the PlayStation 3 enable you to do where you previously maybe bumped up against walls with the PS2?
I think the biggest thing is that we're able to set up these scenarios and these moments in the game, and we can do it in a way that's truly 100% real. In the past, we really pushed the PlayStation 2 kind of to its limits. We squeezed all the juice that we could out of it. And when that would happen, we'd hit kind of these walls where, okay, now we have to figure out creative ways that isn't just using the raw power of the system to kind of create these giant sets and these spectacles. And they worked, but they're not quite as seamless as what you can expect to see in God of War 3, and they're not as big to be blunt about it. But it's, we can do more of everything. We can have more enemies. We can render lights more realistically. That's the basic stuff that you're kind of seeing in all the games right now. But we always kind of pick with all of our games kind of like a few things that we're really gonna highlight and showcase the power of the system on, and make sure that those are the things that we really sell. And the Titans are one of them.
And last question from our readers. They're curious about some of the challenges that you face. What, from day to day, what are the things that you're still perhaps working through?
Well, every day is new challenges. Yesterday, the big challenge was, making sure that we had a stable build for this demo and everything was operating properly in it. And I imagine when I go back to work after this interview that there's going to be a whole list of new challenges. But that's just the nature of the beast of making games. Specifically, how do you design a level on a moving creature that we don't have any reference point to look at. We've never seen a game that does this before. How do we continue to evolve Kratos without breaking him? How do we give him new moves and maintain the fact that he feels exactly the same way? I can tell you one thing, for sure right now is Kratos. When you pick up the controller, he feels like Kratos, and everything that we do, the challenge is making sure that we maintain that integrity.
Well, I know you've been working hard. I know you've been doing interviews for the last 4 hours. So I want to thank you for taking time to answer the questions directly from the readers of the PlayStation blog. I know they can't wait to see the stuff that we've seen today, because really words fail me. And I'm curious to see what everybody writes, because perhaps they're more talented than I am. But the game looks better than anything I've ever seen. And so it's a testament to what you, that's not even an exaggeration, better than anything I've ever seen. So really keep up the good work, and really good luck.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot.